Hello everybody, welcome back to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. My name is Tom and today we are back with another Game Week 1 draft reveal, this time with Az, who you will no doubt know from FPL Black Box and the Thursday streams with Sam that kicked off this week. Az, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it's good to be back on Scout doing the streams with Sam. Like you said, did our first Black Box episode recently. Games launched, ready to go through all the pain once again of another FPL season.
Yeah, definitely. What was your brief thoughts on the changes, the chips and everything?
Yeah, broadly fine. Obviously, I think it's the Afcon one that was the Afcon rules that were the problematic ones. I think maybe a bit too much has been made of them. I think people find a way to enjoy them when it actually comes to the game week 15, 16 when we get all those transfers and the strategy we do with that. Depending on what chips you've got left, if you've got your bench boost left, it might help with things like that. You could save them till later in the season. And I think, yeah, everyone's sort of saying it's ruining the strategy of the game and it's making it too easy. But I actually think what we do with those transfers is going to be key to how the seasons pan out. So, yeah, I mean, the other ones, assist rule, DEFCON, all the bonus point changes, all completely sensible. So I'm looking forward to it. It's probably the most excited I've been for the start of a season in quite a few years because lots of different ways you can play it and people's teams are different. And obviously there's some template picks, but some people are bench boosting game week 1, like you're thinking of doing. I was thinking of doing it. Now I've gone the other way. So yeah, have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, for sure. It does feel like there's less of a template this year, different
Mm.
strategies, and like you say with the 5 free transfers, we're not going to have 5 African players that we need to take out, so we can exploit other opportunities. I think, Triple City because I know they got good fixtures around that time. But yeah, moving into the video, just before we do that, we'll give a quick shout out to the Fantasy Football Scout members area, which is still 47% off. That discount is changing at the end of the week. So do get in there now. We've got all the defensive contribution data modeled onto last season, so you can see every player's how many points they would have got. That's modeled per 90 as well, so you can see how many defcons a player gets every game. We've got the revised bonus points as well, so you can see that Salah would have got a few less points last year with the bonus changes. I'm guessing that's because of the penalty changes, is going slightly down for scoring a penalty. And as I know that you used all that data for the incredible Black Box episode that was last week.
Incredible! Wow, high praise. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's an amazing article from Will as well where he goes through, looks at all the adjusted points, and there's positional changes for players like Bowen and the points they would have adjusted. So yeah, Scout are just so on their game at the moment. The amount of stuff that's been churned out on the site, all the different adjustments to the members area, all looking really good. And yeah, Black Box wouldn't exist without all the members stuff from Scout. So yeah, we're very happy to be partnered up again this year.
Yeah, for sure. And do check out FPL Black Box channel if you haven't already. Right, let's get into AZs Team, which I'll bring up on screen. I'll quickly read it out for those on the podcast. So AZs got Sells in goal with a back four of Van Dijk, Tarkowski, Milenkovic, Van de Ven. A midfield of Salah, Palmer, Wirtz, Rice with Gyokeres, who was added to the game the day that we're recording, which is
Yeah.
Monday. So good to get that in there. And João Pedro joining him with a cheap bench of Vlad Marson, Esteve, Matete, not Mateta, I've never heard of him, and Krupi Jr., the 4.5 million forward. So you're
Yep.
definitely not bench boosting. Do you want to tell me a little bit why that's changed? Because I know your first draft you set up as a bench boost.
Yeah, I think I really bought into the bench boost idea. When the season kicked off. When I heard about the new chips, I thought surely it's a great time to do it. I know Planet FPL James did it last year, got him off to a really good start of the season. He wildcarded early, went on and had a great year, and it was tempting to follow suit with that. The more I looked at the fixtures, the more I looked at how my team would look in game week 2 and 3. I realised very quickly that it would be a free hit in game week 2 just to get through to game week 3, but then you're still not really ideally set up in game week 3 anyway. There's actually a case, I think, to be made to bench boost, then free hit, then wildcard into game week 3 and literally just use 3 chips, off the back. Or the other option is to free hit and then wildcard it in game week 2. I can't really see it like a balanced approach to it where you sort of try and set yourself up for the bench boost and then try and get away with it in game week 2. Just didn't really work, and start of the seasons are so unpredictable. I've moved away from that idea a bit. I think going with Salah and Palmer is nice. I think Gyokeres coming in gives you a decent 9 option. And if you've got those three, as you can see with my team, you really can't afford to have some of the good options on the bench. So I think both, there's no right or wrong answer. I think both ways of playing are completely valid, but I'm going for a stronger 11, and then I'll work out what's with the chips a bit later on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So starting in goal, you've gone for Sells as the pick. So you've doubled up on Forest. Sells and Milenkovic.
Yep.
We'll do them as a pair, I guess. So you've ignored the 4.5 keepers, ignored Kelleher. I think that's a smart decision, to be fair. I think Brentford are going to have to struggle. And then obviously you've avoided Sanchez as well. No Chelsea defensive cover there.
Yeah, goalkeepers is a tough one because normally a 4-5 option emerges. Last year that was Sells. There's normally some kind of 4-5 that I look at and tends to go quite well. Whenever I've gone for a more premium goalkeeper, you look at the points at the end of the season and you think, is 20, 15, 20 points, was that worth the 1 million for Raya over the 4-5? It was even closer last time out. So I struggled a bit. I don't really know who that 4-5 is going to be this season. I know Brighton well enough to think that we're not going to suddenly become a great defensive side. We do okay, but we're not going to keep enough clean sheets, I don't think, for Verbruggen to emerge as like an absolute standout of 4-5. I think Kelleher's potentially the one, but I'm really, really worried about Brentford this season with all the players they've lost. That Andrews coming in, I'm just not sure what his pedigree is and how he's going to set up the team. He's going to make a lot of saves. We know Brentford have been good for goalkeepers over the years, but it's not. I don't know. It's not a great time to start with Brentford players. I think let's see how they settle down. So if you're kind of ignoring those, then I think you're going up potentially to someone else. I think Trafford would have been perfect if he'd been 4-5 and playing for Burnley, given the number of clean sheets they've got. But he's not 4-5 and he's going to Man City, it looks like. So I think that leaves the 5 billion options, and there's some decent ones there. But Sells was just unbelievable last year, and you've got to think Forest will drop off a little bit, but even if he maintains a 150, 160 point season, you're still going to get good value, I think, of him.
Yeah, I mean, if they are in the Europa League now instead of the Conference League, then obviously they don't kick off for Europe for a few weeks. Good fixtures at the start. I think it's pretty good. And on my bench boost, I have got those two as well. Not tempted by Murillo for the higher defensive contributions, but less goals. It's hard to know what's right there, really.
It is, yeah. I mean, you've got advantages from all of them, right? Williams, Aina, Murillo, Milenkovic. I think that they're all really, really good picks. And like I said, if Forest can keep that defensive solidity, then they're going to be really good. I do worry a bit that teams have maybe figured them out a little bit, and they are going to keep less clean sheets, and they are going to struggle a little bit more, which means that when I'm looking at the defenders, I'm just going to pick the one with the best goal threat, because at least in that way, if they do concede, you've still got the player who I think can get on the end of set pieces. And I mean, Milenkovic is just an absolute beast in the air. That's not going to change next season. He got 5 goals last year. I think he could easily get 4 or 5 goals again this season. They're keeping Gibbs White as well. Anderson is great on corners too. I think he had a couple disallowed as well, for pushes and shoves and things. Five seems a realistic target again. And if he gets that, and like I said, if he can get to 160, 170 points again for 5-5, he's going to be great value.
Yeah, definitely. Elsewhere, just one premium defender in the form of Van Dijk. I love Van Dijk. I think I saw your black box segment and he was in my draft from the start, really, with the fullbacks. But just one premium defender. Are you happy about that?
Yeah, I mean, Van Dijk is the one. If I was going to pick any of them, it's obviously going to be him. That's why he's in. I think, Ait Nouri, Vardiol, Cucurella, Saliba, Gabriel, they're all good picks. There's a lot of variety that you can go for. And, you see people's teams and you think, oh, but you haven't got this player, you haven't got that player. You physically can't have them all. I just think Van Dijk is the one. With the clean sheet potential they've got, with his attacking threat, and with the fact that last year he was getting a DEFCON point, 2 points every 3 games, I think, something like that, sort of like a 33% strike rate. That's absolutely fine. He was getting a good return anyway for that price, and to be boosting that by another 22 points over the season, I think is even better. So I'm expecting Liverpool to be really, really strong this season, and that means you want to tap into their main assets. And with a bit of uncertainty at the fullback position, and you can't really go for Konate. Maybe Gahey comes in and he's an option because he'll be a lot cheaper. But for now, I think Van Dijk is the easy pick.
Yeah, for sure. Tarkowski as well. You're backing him at 5.5, expensive price, but Obviously, as we know from the scout data and the Premier League data, he was the best defender for defensive contributions last year.
Yep.
Currently injured though. Is he? Have you picked him because he plays for Everton or because of he's Tarkovsky with the DEFCONs?
Yeah, I mean, if you told me a couple of seasons ago that I'd be picking players for like 2 point potential from a defensive contribution, I would have thought you were crazy. But having looked at all the scout numbers and seeing just how well he does on these, and you look at things like Everton's average possession is the lowest in the league, and there's a perfect correlation between low possession and getting these points as well. So that's not going to change under Moyes. The fixtures are great as well, and amazingly, the Everton defenders actually do quite well even in those games, the easier games, because they're still having to make all these blocks and clearances and interceptions. Whereas if you're playing easier teams, you might think you have to make fewer of those. I just think that the first couple of games of the season, he just looks perfect. He just looks like the perfect defender to have, because I think he's just going to tick away with these points, and there's clean sheet potential in there as well, and he's got goal threat as well. Yeah. So if he's getting you 4 or 5 points every game, and then he gets the odd goal or something in the first 6 weeks, you're absolutely laughing for 5-5, and that allows you to spend the rest of the money on like the premium assets, like I said.
Yeah, and then finally in defence, disappointed to see a 4.5 million defender is not called the Coupia. You've gone for Van de Ven primarily, I guess, for that fixture game week 1. Talk to me about Van de Ven. Why is he the best 4.5?
Yeah, this do you know what? I like this team. There's a couple of things I'm still deliberating. We'll talk about Rice in a minute. The fact there's not much of a bench. The 4-5 defender is tricky. I had Van Bissaka for ages. I think he is a good price. Yeah,
Somehow,
yeah, I know. He's a good price. For what he gives you, he's going to get those DEFCON points. He's playing an attacking position. I mean, Walker Peters has come in. I mean, the biggest problem with West Ham is that it's West Ham, right? We just don't know what they're going to be like. And going away to Sunderland on the first game, these promoted teams are funny. You never really know what you're going to get, especially quite early on. So I looked at his ownership and thought, if I'm looking at a player to back against, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Sunderland scored in that game and he came away with nothing. So if I'm looking for if I've got quite a template team anyway, and I'm looking for players to go against, he was one of the first. De Kuipers and Van de Ven could not be less similar in terms of what you're going to get. If you've got De Kuiper playing at wing back, potentially on penalties, really fun, really exciting, could be a great option. If Welbeck's in and out the team as well, if we switch to 3 at the back too, which some of the rumours are saying that we're going to do. I'm reluctant to come on a scout stream and big up our wing back again after the absolute disaster that was Barco last season. So maybe I'm being a little bit hesitant off the back of that. The Spurs fixtures are really nice to start the season. And actually, Esteve there at 4 million, he actually rotates quite well with Spurs. He can come in for game week 2. Spurs play City. Burnley have got Sunderland at home in that game. So given what we saw from Burnley last season, he could do quite well for 4 million. He's an absolute steal. I think he's by far the best pick from players priced around that. So yeah, the Van de Ven spot. It's either going to be Van de Ven, Wan-Bissaka, or De Kuiper. I mean, I know myself, and I'll probably end up switching to De Kuiper because I don't want people to get his points when I know that he's probably going to be quite fun to own. But at the moment, Van de Ven's in. I mean, that a doggy as well looks decent at 4-5. I'm expecting Spurs to be a lot better defensively this season. 4-5 for a good side, and if it's a good settled side that hasn't got all the injuries. Again, I think it's quite good value there.
Yeah, cool. Moving into midfield, you've gone with Salah, Palmer, Wirtz, and Rice there. Salah and Palmer, are they non-negotiables for you?
Yeah, I didn't have Palmer in my first draft, but the more you think about it, the more you just think like. We were all sceptical about him costing 10.5 last year, and other than the last 7 or 8 games of the season, he was just absolutely unbelievable. It faded away from him for a bit, but I think that was a blip. I can see him going back to the Palmer of old, and we saw that during the Club World Cup and all the other things around that. Chelsea have obviously strengthened with God knows how many players have come in, but they look like a stronger team. They look like they're able to compete now at the top end of the table, which is credit to Maresca, because I think a lot of people had sort of written Chelsea off halfway through his tenure, saying he'd slowed them down too much, more predictable. But he looks to be getting a tune out of them now. It's good fixtures to start the season as well for Chelsea, and it's hard to ignore him, especially with Pedro priced so highly as well, because there's not too many options in that Chelsea attack that you're going to feel comfortable
Yeah.
going for. So I think it's probably best just to get the best one.
Yeah, no, good shout. Pedro, talk about him then. I'm not. I know he's the highest owned player in FPL, but I'm not convinced he's going to be incredible. I just think
Yeah.
it screams a 65-minute sub for Delap. Like looking at your team, you could go well back in, save $1 million, and then do anything, I suppose. So, is he in there for ownership purposes, or do you think he's one of the best two forwards?
He's in there because I don't fully trust Solanke at the same price.
Yeah,
And if I'm looking around at other strikers around the 7 million mark, I mean, there's Chris Wood. We don't really know what's going to happen with Forest. I mean, he is an option. We think he's going to start the season. Obviously, Jesus can come in at some point. You could drop down. I'm not sure about Welbeck, what his role is going to be in the team. There's just enough doubt around other players. And there is no doubt about João Pedro for those first few games in terms of starts. Because I know you mentioned Delap, but he's gonna start those games with Jackson out. Even if Delap comes in, he could move over to the left. I mean, he could move into a number 10 role and push Palmer out to the right. I just think the Club World Cup was so big for him because it's such a big gamble to take him out of that starting 11 after what he did and the impact he had coming in. It's like everything's just laid on a plate for him. It's like have a good start to the season, and then that can really kickstart your Chelsea career. So we're not picking him for the whole season because I think he is going to come out in and out of the team like throughout the year. But I think particularly for those 3 or 4 weeks, I just think he's a good pick, regardless of ownership. I was surprised that his ownership was so high. I knew it
it's
would
about
be high.
60% or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I knew it would be high given what we saw, but I didn't think he'd be reaching those numbers. And obviously, if he hadn't scored those goals in the Club World Cup, I think he'd be a lot less owned. I don't think he's a massively explosive player. I don't think he's going to be a player that gets you 15, 20 points, but I do back him to get a couple of goals in those first few weeks.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You've picked Wirtz and Gyokeres, 2 new signings to the league. I guess you don't have doubts about them adapting to the league then.
I don't have any doubts about Wirtz. I think 8.5 is too good to ignore. I think if he was 9.5, I'd still be tempted, but at 8.5, the price is just too good. You don't want to be behind on him because if he does well in that first game against Bournemouth, you're clambering to get him. He's got so much potential. I think he's just a season keeper, to be honest, unless he really struggles to adapt to the Premier League, which I just can't see happening. I think 8.5 was a bit low in terms of his price. Gyokeres is a funny one. I'm still not 100% sure he's going to start that first week. I do wonder
I
if
agree.
Havertz. Yeah, I do wonder if Havertz could start. But I'm trying to say to myself, is it just overthinking? Like we have waited for Arsenal to bring in a number 9 for I don't even know how many years. Final piece of the puzzle. It's like when Haaland joined Man City, and we said that was going to. I didn't go for Haaland in those first few weeks. I watched him score a brace against West Ham, game week 1. Took me ages to decide that he was ready and bring him in, and in the end it cost me. Gyokeres at 9. He hasn't got to perform like a 12, 13 million striker. He's just got to get you a couple of goals in the first few weeks. It's Leeds in game week 2. He'll get minutes against Manchester United, who's still going to be ropey in the league. I think you go for someone like him, or you go for Watkins or someone like that. But I'm not too sure about Watkins and his role at Villa, or if he moves, what that's going to be. So I think there's big potential with Gyokeres. If he just comes in and like we all think he's going to do, I mean, he knows how to score a goal. Like, look at his record over the last couple of years. I know people might say it's not one of the top leagues, but you don't score that many goals and not know where to position yourself. And he's got the creativity he's got around him is just absolutely unbelievable. And people will laugh at like the Madueke signing, but you've got another player there who can just beat a man and put the ball into the box. And who's going to be there hoovering up all of these assists and all these like through balls, all these crosses? It's going to be him. So I'm hoping he starts in game week 1, but he'll be in the team game week 2, worst case scenario. So at the moment, I'm punting on him. If Arteta comes out and says he's not ready, or he wants to give a bit more time, or I mean, he probably won't because it's Arteta, but I'll be listening to the press conference, and if it's likely that he's going to play, then he'll definitely be in.
Yeah, it's just him and Watkins, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Watkins, Newcastle at home, not the worst fixture. He's going to start. Might not be on penalties. We've heard from Arteta that Gyokeres, it seems Arteta's aware of how good he is at penalties. And, I mean, he didn't exactly back Saka in the quotes when he said we'll see. they
They're a
might
very
give it.
generous team, right? They're a very
Yeah,
generous team with penalties. They share them all around and stuff. And I just think you've now got this striker in who wants to score goals and has got this incredible penalty record. Just give it to him.
yeah. You can see Saka. They're 1-0 up against Leeds, get a penalty. You can see him taking it
Yeah,
for
straight
sure.
over to the new signing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then the one. Oh no, Rice. We haven't done Rice. Declan Rice. Then 6.5 million. I guess it's fair to say without the Defcons, you wouldn't have put him in your team. Um, Who
No,
else is at that price? NDI is there. Rogers is 0.5 more.
it's
Why
a
have you picked
weird
Rice?
bracket. It's a
Yeah,
weird bracket, the 6-5. I think really, obviously you've got Kudus, you've got Endai, you've got these players around 6-5. You could go down to like McNeil or someone like that at 6. I know Rogers is obviously a good pick at 7, but I think, when you're looking at 7-5, you're looking at like Eze and Gibbs White and players like that. They're the ones that you really want. But I just think with Rice, it's really interesting because he would have got 150 points, in and around 150 points last season with the new rules that came in. Would have got 18 extra points from the DefCon stuff. That's 4.65 points per 90. He missed quite a few games. Actually, if you like look at all that, he's 160, 170 point player, and I don't think last year in the league he hit any of the heights that he's capable of. They've got Zubamendi in now to free up some more attacking potential for him. He's going to be given more free kicks because he's scored those 2 amazing ones in the Champions League. He's taking corners. He's box to box. He wants to be more box to box. He's spoken about how he wants to get more goals as well. So I'm thinking 160, 170 points is a good return anyway. If he can score 10 goals and add 5 assists to that, you could be looking at a 200-point player for 6-5. And people might laugh, but we never thought Odegaard was capable of hitting 200 points, and he did. And I think Rice could be the next one that breaks into that, into that score. So again, it's one of those ones. Do you start with him? Do you wait to see what his role is in the team? Do you wait to see how Gyokeres affects like some of the other players? Maybe he needs to score less goals because Gyokeres just scores them all, and he's one that you bring in a bit later. But with the other options not really standing out around the price, I'm tempted to start with him and see how it goes.
yeah. I think he's definitely more interesting than like Caicedo.
Yeah,
Lots of people picking him, but Caicedo,
yeah,
what people don't say is he gets booked half the time,
yeah, yeah.
which mitigates the new points.
Well, Baleba, I mean, I am biased, but Baleba looks a better pick to me than Casado.
Yeah,
He's
cheaper
point,
as well. Yeah,
yeah, he's 0.5 less, and I imagine they'll come out in and around the same number of points. They both do well on the Defcon, but yeah, like you say, Casado gets booked a lot, and I think Baleba's got more goal threat to him. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if both of those came in around the sort of 140, 150 point mark. But like you said, he's saving 0.5.
yeah. And then the final player, Salah, never in doubt and going to be the captain.
I think so. Bournemouth at home with selling arguably
Friday
their best
night as
defender.
well.
Yeah, Friday night, be at Fest watching that. Haaland is tempting. I know a lot of people are writing him off and writing Man City off and think he might not be worth the money, but
Instead of.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. It is tricky. I do. Haaland starts seasons so strongly. His braces are nothing to him. And you look at last year and you look at the year before, but I just think that game week 1 fixture against Bournemouth with Anfield, the Anfield crowd are going to be up to the awful thing that happened with Jota over pre-season, all the new signings they've got in, all the optimism, and playing a Bournemouth side who have lost some key men, particularly in defence. I think that just looks like a really good opportunity for him to do well. So yeah, again, I'll be watching pre-season. I want to see what Salah's role is with the new signings coming in. If Isak does come in and Wirtz is there, and we want to see Salah. Obviously, we've seen him wide before. He still does well, but we don't want to see him pushed out wide. If Frimpong comes in, he's the one bombing into the box, for example. But if Salah's going to be tucking in and getting near the penalty area, then yeah, he's an easy pick. I think game week 1.
Yeah, definitely initially at least. Well, we'll leave that there. Thank you very much for giving us your latest draft and chatting through with us. Do check out the members area in the link in the description, primarily to get all the insight you need for DEFCON points. That's 47% off at the minute. Check out FPL Black Box. Follow Az on Blue Sky. And Az, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Speak to you again soon.
Cheers, guys. Have a great day.